Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89. Well, I watched all the Psycho films last night as a bit of a tribute to honour Olivia Hussey, who died. I had recently watched Black Christmas. That would have been the easy way to do a tribute to her. But it was great because I hadn't seen the films in years. I watched them more than 10 years ago on DVD. I think on my TV screen. I don't believe I've ever seen them on widescreen. And I had the Blu-ray box set, which I had had for 9 years and not watched. So it's just great to see them. Now, I watched the first 4 films, but I also watched the remake. Now, the remake is some weird abomination that happened in 1998. No one knows why. There's a lot of theories as to what Gus Van Sant was thinking and doing and what a comment he was saying on Hollywood and so forth. But for years, they'd wanted to do a sequel to Psycho, and they did. It was brilliant. Then they did a slasher sequel, which wasn't so good. Then they did a TV movie because the third film didn't do so well in the cinema. But it was done by HBO and it was brilliant. That was what Olivia Hussey was in. But then I guess they wanted to make a remake because Anthony Perkins had passed on. And like, how can you do Psycho without him? You reboot it, I guess. So they did it, and it was really weird. I don't remember at the time if it was really accurately portrayed as a shot-for-shot remake, because I don't think I went into the film understanding it was supposed to be a shot-for-shot remake. But I think that was the criticism of it, because unfortunately my niece's wedding, and yes, I'm one of 8, so I had nieces that were born, before me. So she got married, and I had to stay in Tasmania, I think it was Easter, for the wedding. So I missed the opening week or so of the film, so I didn't get to see the premiere or anything like that. And I think there was some criticism of the film at that point, but this is 1998, so the internet was not what it was today. There was no social media, so I didn't really understand what I was walking into when I saw the film. Now, the film isn't actually a shot-for-shot remake. It's very close. It's kind of like a scene-for-scene remake, I guess you could say. Not every shot is matched. Not every angle is matched. Some people act like that's the case, and it's totally bereft of any artistry, and it isn't. It does replicate many things. It does some things Hitchcock wanted to do. He wanted to go from a city scene all the way into an apartment building and straight into the window in one clean shot. He couldn't do it technically then. They do it in this film. But then we go straight to the dirty foot of the trashy guy that today's Marion Crane is sleeping with. There's a real sort of tacky 60s element to this film, and a real trashy element to this film, where Gus Van Sant sort of did what they did the same thing with the Friday the 13th remake, where they did Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then they tried to make all the remakes and the Amityville remake and the Halloween remake, just make them really trashy. Actually, no, Amityville wasn't that trashy. I'm thinking more of Halloween, where it's just really trashy people, and it's just really kind of gross. Now, they start off with them talking. Now, the original film, Janet Leigh wore black underwear and then white underwear to show that she turned from a good girl to a bad girl. Now, in this film, they go with orange and green, and during the main part of the film, she's wearing a dress that is both orange and green to show she's conflicted. So there are elements like that they play on, which were part of the original movie. I think they should have just gone with red, because the opening credits, they start off, instead of black and white, they're black and green. I'm like, they should have just done red for blood, and they could have played with that in different ways. But so she goes to work, the same scenario, of course, if you know Psycho. There's a guy flaunting a bunch of money, he's buying a house for his daughter, and she just decides, I'm going to steal this money and run off with my boyfriend, because he's saying to her, look, I need to get my life together, I don't have the money, my wife is getting my money, blah, 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 I'm living in the back of the store, I'm not good enough. And she's like, fine, I don't care, but whatever. She goes back to work. That's the last time he sees her alive. She ends up at the basement hotel. Now, one of the things that annoyed me in this film is, like I said, it's mostly shot for shot, but and some scenes are literally shot for shot. But there's one part that they didn't do which really worked. When Marion falls asleep in her car, she pulls over, and this cop shows up, and we have this really imposing shot, a close-up shot of him just looking in the window, and it's kind of terrifying in the original. It makes you sort of jump when you sort of see her. You see her sort of sleep, and then she wakes up, and the first shot is just him. They didn't do that shot. She wakes up and goes to drive off, and then he moves to the side, and then after he talks to her for a second, then we get the close-up of him. Like, why would you do that? That worked perfectly. Why would you not recreate that? So there are moments like that where he doesn't recreate things exactly, like the shower scene, when Norman comes in and pulls back the curtain. Instead of the Psycho strings hitting right away, you see her react to him react to that. and then he pulls up the knife, and then it starts. So it's like he knew what we were expecting, that we'd get a basically remake of the original shower scene, and then he changes it. And the only really thing he inserted, though, fortunately, is just a shot of rolling clouds, 2 shots of rolling clouds when she's sort of looking up and she's sort of realizing she's being killed, which does sort of make it sound like something bigger, like some sort of force of nature or something. It's like thunder, and it kind of works. I don't mind that. Somebody really complained about that. I don't mind it. The next killing, though, of Arbogast is just awful. When he falls down the stairs, they close up even closer, and it's an even worse green screen from the original, where he falls back on the steps, and you're seeing him go like this, and you track him the whole time, and it looks really comical, and his scream is really comical, and you just laugh at it, and it's just funny, not in a good way. And then, of course, we have Marion's sister, this time played by, oh my god, I'm blanking on her name, Julianne Moore. She comes and she's playing the sister, and she's very strong. And I didn't think in terms of the original, she would have been seen as a bit of a ball buster, and this girl's a bit like that. So of course they had to change her. She's sort of 70s sort of punk, 80s sort of rock sort of vibe about her. And she's pushing them to find out who killed her sister, of course. She goes to the hardware store, and she finds that the boyfriend doesn't know where Marion is. She believes him. A private detective shows up, who's been hired by the guy she stole the money from. Same scenario. If she comes back with the money, they'll forgive her. It's all good. But no one can find her. They all end up going to the Bates Motel, of course. The investigator goes in to speak to the mother. He couldn't get to speak to her before. No one wouldn't let him. He's killed. They eventually go there themselves. There's a confrontation between Norman. Now, Norman is played by... What's his name? Oh, how embarrassing. Oh, I'm looking at his face in my head, but you know who I'm talking about. Vince Vaughn. God, Vince Vaughn. And he plays Norman. He's not cute. He's not sympathetic. He's not innocent. You know from the start this guy's a killer, and does this weird little laugh, and you just know right away. And even when he's talking to Marion, he does turn a bit darker than Norman ever got. Because Norman was uncomfortable in that scene, but you didn't get the sense that he still even then could have been a killer or anything. But in this one, you know the story anyway. Like, there's no surprises here. And another thing with Arbogast murder I forgot to mention, they show there's 2 random shots of a woman in a mask, it looks like it's from a porn movie, and a cow in a field or on a car, on a street, on a road, that have no place in that scene. And I don't know if they're supposed to be saying that when he was going in shock and being killed, he just had flashes of random things in his mind, or what was that? All it did was ruin that scene for people, and people complained about that. I remember people complaining about that. People complaining about it being shot for shot. People complaining that it wasn't exactly shot to shot. They did change some things. So this film wasn't well received, didn't do well. No one understood what the point of it was. It seemed like some sort of experiment. It seemed like Gus Van Sant was turning his, giving Hollywood the finger, saying, "Oh, you want to remake films? Let's just remake it exactly the same. You've got no original ideas. You've got no artistic, impulses. Your studios. Let's just remake it exactly." And I think that may have been the very sarcastic response when he was approached. Yeah, I'll do it. And this is how it turned out, I think. But I need to do some research and work out exactly what the hell they were thinking. At first, Marion's in pink, I should mention, and she changes into the different colour. And her dresses look like 60s throwbacks. It's hard to tell what time the film's based in. It looks like the 60s and the 70s. It looks really trashy. Everyone's dressed trashy. But although I did like the salesman's shirt, like not the pattern but the material. The car salesman. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to think all the differences. I did write down a big list. Like, yeah, she's wearing pink. They use orange and green. They don't literally do shot for shot for everything. The boyfriend's trashy. His dirty feet when they pull in. I hate dirty feet. I mean, I get you walking around the set and stuff like that, but whatever. We do see Gus Van Sant standing outside the same store that Hitchcock is, and we have a Hitchcock impersonator poking him in the chest like, "What are you doing remaking my film?" That was funny. I think that's it. There's really not much else in there. I wrote some notes. I'm seeing nothing else that I haven't mentioned. There's no blood on the knife in the shower scene, which is really weird. It's like they were making fun of the original one that didn't show any blood. but then in the other kills you see blood, so it doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, that's about it. I think I've gone through everything. So there's a few things that don't work, a few things that do work. As a film, it's okay, but why does it exist? What is the point? What were they trying to do? What were they trying to say? It's unclear. I need to watch some commentaries and documentaries. I don't want just people's point of views on this. I want to know. I don't know if Gus Van Sant ever made it clear what he was trying to do with this film. Of course, Marion Crane is played by Anne Heche. She has a very anal sort of cold sort of quality that Vivian Leigh managed to portray, but she's not as sympathetic. And she wasn't a very popular actress or person at the time, particularly since she was in a relationship with Ellen at that point, and all the homophobes were hating her. So I think that hurt the film as well. Vince Vaughn is unconvincing, he's unsympathetic, he's creepy. Nothing about this film really works, but nothing so abominable that you can't watch it, but you sort of wonder why you are. I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think of the Psycho remake.